and I'll do a little introduction here. Okay, hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bushwhacking History. I'm Berserker Bear. Today we have a special guest, good buddy Transit Bear from Jersey, right?
Yeah, man.
And so
New
he
Jeru.
actually, yeah, there you go. So we're gonna rap back and forth about what you see on the screen right now. That documentary. He actually. Oh, there we go. I'm going live. Feedback. So another live session, as with all that, there's hiccups and everything. So we're going live right now to actually do a review of this documentary called The Days of Noah. If anybody comes in the chat, can we get a mic check for our audio? But we're gonna go back and forth. I'll show some clips because, oh man, Transit Bear Daniel, when you recommended this to me and I watched it, like I was telling you earlier, I was having like almost like nostalgic flashbacks of watching the History Channel episodes and Discovery Channel back in the day. So well done. And you know what? One thing that stuck out to me, we'll get into this real quick about, and we'll outline it, and then I'll have you introduce yourself. But one thing that stuck out to me was like, why weren't these shows out back in the day when I was watching that stuff? It was all, the whole science aspect of it. So that's one thing that came into my mind when I was watching it. Great documentary. There is a little bit of grabbling, like you said when you see my outline about the documentary starts out with God is love. Now we're going to come from a Christian angle and a standpoint on this and break it down from the antediluvian time through the time of Noah, the flood, and how the evidence of the flood is actually all around us. We're going to detail that for you. It's going to be a pretty gravy laden session here, and yeah, that's one thing that was like, why didn't we have these type of shows when we were younger? Or maybe we did, we just weren't privy to them. But they weren't showing them on Discovery Channel or History Channel. So I
No,
digress. So yeah, for my viewers, do it. Introduce yourself, Transit Bear. How you came about with the bear community and everything, and
oh yeah,
how much we like to
absolutely.
ladle gravy and with logos and all that in mind.
Yeah.
My
So
man.
my introduction to the community um, was probably around 2018, and I was a newbie to the chat, so I kind of just laid low. I didn't really do much in the chats, and I was just kind of playing the background a little bit. And the one thing that always stuck out with Owen and with the community was the logos driven community, the logos driven of the man that we call the Big Bear. It was something that I immediately gravitated towards. I couldn't get enough of it, and just watching the growth of him, sitting in a little bit of the background, a little bit, chatting here and there. I came a little bit more on the scene in the D Live days. There, I was a little bit more, with the chat and made myself a little bit more known in the presence of it. And it's been a fun ride, having the ability of chatting with yourself, Berserker Bear, and some of the other bears on hanging with the bears, and now they're on Telegram, and the community's growing, and it's a great aspect to see that as the world crumbles all around us. The reality is that there are going to be those that will have to hold it all together, and I don't want to sound arrogant, but at the same time, I'm going to say what I see, and what I see is the bear community is going to be thriving and surviving in whatever comes our way, and I'm really excited for it. I can't wait to start chatting about this, man. This is going to be a lot of fun. And
Yeah,
the
hundred
other thing that
percent.
I wanted to
Oh yeah,
mention
go
to
ahead.
you is the documentaries that were out there when we were a kid. They were supposed to be hive minded. They were supposed to be a collective thought. And this doesn't have you so much of a hive mind. It just has you thinking in a different aspect. And we're going to see that, with some of these other clips that they were never shown these things when we were never shown these things when we were kids. So we'll have a look at that, and we'll break it down a little bit further as we go along.
Perfect. I love it. Yeah, and the way to parallel that, a good way for in the bear community, and what we're doing, it's there is a parallel as to like the ark, and when Noah was trying to get everybody in his 120 years. This is another little preview, and I wondered, we're going to go over data points, and we'll, like I said, the outline. But one question that I'll pose is one that I had while watching another one, uh, and this will give kind of a theme of how we're going to do this. Like, who was after we do the outline and go through our own opinions and stuff. I'd like to actually pull out some questions, and if anybody has questions in the chat, please put them up there. But I don't know who was it. Metatron? Who's do you know off the top of your head? Now I'm
I
not a
don't.
biblical scholar, dude.
I don't. I
I have
don't
it for
know.
reference. Yeah, I don't. Now here's where the interactive nature of this will come into play, because hopefully somebody can give us that answer. What's up, Skull Asylum? In the chat, and we'll bounce back and forth to the chat as well, so we get a little bit of interaction here. Because I'll bet somebody comes and answers that. Who was the? I would say off the top of my head, maybe an Archangel Michael, or even maybe Metatron, the highest
Okay.
of the archangels,
Right.
um, the scribe of God. Like when people say
Right.
they hear the voice of God, it's not necessarily the voice of God. It's Metatron. He's the voice of, because you can't hear God. God's voice is creation. God's voice is logos. We as humans cannot hear, so he has to have a messenger. And when people say that they do hear the voice of God, it's actually Metatron you're hearing. So I wonder if it was Metatron. But if anybody can give feedback on that, that's effectively kind of the nature of what we're going to be delivering
If
here.
I can just
So
expound off that for a second too, there
go
may be
right ahead.
something
Yep.
there that we have to soul search, or Holy Spirit be given unto us, or an ether drop, whatever you want to call it, because it's not given in the Bible. So if it's not given in the Bible, it's going to be a little bit more than a research level, I
Gravy.
suppose.
Now
I
that's
suppose.
that's a great insight. And because with our fellowship and what we do with our faith and everything, Christian, of course, and we go by the Bible and how Jesus was, right? We were always, for myself, my own personal life, with strife and whatever major decisions, I ask myself, what do I think Jesus would do? Right? That's what
Right.
defines us as Christians.
Sure.
But to incorporate just like what you're saying, to ladle on that, I also like use and utilize some of the older books, like the Jewish older books and everything, for the faith research, also for like the gravy research of the angels and demons, because I think that I've talked about this before in Hanging with Bears. I like to see the attributes of even the demons too, and some don't like to delve into that. I understand, but to incorporate the older books is to um, broaden your knowledge base, I think, or at least the pool that
Absolutely.
you're pulling from. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Listen, if your faith is strong and you are grounded, and you know where your walk is, I don't have issues with people going for other teachings. Just for example, a lot of people have an issue with Gnostic teachings. I don't. I don't follow them per se, word for word and chapter by verse, but I have no problem with somebody picking up a Gnostic book and getting after it. A lot of people
Me,
do.
me neither. Me neither,
You know,
dude.
I
To be
don't.
honest
I
with you,
don't one bit. There's got to be a
I
lot of teachings that we're not privy to at this point, whether they were taken from us or we're just not ready to handle them yet. Whatever the case may be, you know.
yeah, I actually utilize the Gnostic. I'm not a like I said, biblical scholar or even a scholar in Gnosticism, but there are certain tenets of the Gnostic belief that I agree with, and I would even say that I align with. The whole thing of the whole notion of, that's another thing that actually this documentary does a great job of detailing. At the end, the third act, you got three parts of it.
Right.
The antediluvian, where it details that, and then it goes in to show how the geology shows that it was actually deposited by the flood, and it does look like that, despite of what scientismos are saying. And what's really gravy also is the socio aspect of it, the socio-political aspect of how I wasn't familiarized with, like we were saying before, the French Revolution was like instrumental in actually kind of like putting a death toll, unfortunately, on faith. And I distinguish faith between religion. And I think the religion, the dogmatic nature of religion, and the hyper tyrannical nature that it got, that this doc describes in the Middle Ages, accompanied with the governmental monarchs that are tyrannical, brought the people to such a subjected state that they felt that they had to do this or whatever. Societal woe was at the time, considering, we're starting to maybe delve into that a little bit right now. It's just crazy
Sure.
as you look at it over across time. But I didn't know that aspect of it really. Maybe I heard of it, in talking, but the French Revolution, and we talk about like when Jordan Peterson, well, when he mentions postmodernism, that all arises from that, and that was the death knell effectively to people really being okay with having your faith outright, and it progressed into like literally being demonized and like taken out of school and everything, the faith. Now, just like we said in the beginning, maybe if that wasn't the case, they would have been showing these type of episodes with faith. Like there was one real good point in this show where it said if we were given the teachings of Darwinism or that guy Charles Lyell
Yes.
and
Yeah. Charles Lyle.
uniformitarianism, well, that's great.
Right.
Give us both, though. Okay, show us the creationist point of view, show us the science capital S point of view. But we weren't given that. We were only given the science capital S. Now we're gonna in this episode, and we're gonna lay the gravy on why that was, and just get some feedback from everybody. So yeah, what do you think about that? The French Revolution and the postmodernist movement and humanitarian, that all led up to the ideas that like were the foundation for evolution. You know,
Well, you
so
have in the French Revolution, you have also in there was De Molay. Now we're told that De Molay was supposed to be this horrible man. I don't know. I know that he was supposed to be burned, and he was one of the last of the Knights Templars. He was one of the last that were supposed to be the ones that practiced open Satanism and practiced upside down crucifixes. But that's the story that we're given. We're also given a story about how the Knights Templars were the good people. So could it be that it was an inversion? Was De Molay, in fact, somebody that was trying to carry on the traditions, the real Christian traditions, and they were trying to silence his voice? We don't know. That was 300, almost 400 years ago, right? Well, what year are we in, 2020? Yeah, it was almost 400 years ago. The other thing, too, that I forgot to mention to you before when we just started to go live, there was a group that was in France, in the south of France, that Tyndale modeled his beliefs and his religious views after. They were very quiet. It was a bunch of monks. I couldn't find it before we went live. They were from the 10th century. And what they practiced was exactly the way the Church of Thessalonica practiced. They were very by the book, and whoever came towards them, they would follow their, whatever they were speaking of, and they would take it and they would present it back, their teachings, they would present it back, and basically they would compare it to a biblical teaching. And if it didn't compare to a biblical teaching, or if it wasn't sound doctrine, they would banish them. And that's something that, we were taken, it wasn't taken away from us. Let me rephrase that. Nothing is taken
what's the
from us.
name of it again, Daniel? So I can. This is why the hip fire thing is good. We're live. I'll look it up as you're talking about it.
Uh,
What's the name of it?
there were 10th century monks in the south of France. I couldn't find exactly the name of it, but there were
Were
10th
they
century.
the Carolingians? Carolinians?
I think that may be them. Yeah, it
Off the
began with
top,
a
off the
C.
top of my head.
Yeah,
Carolyn.
that may be them. And they were the church that was modeled from what Tyndale was after. And they just disappeared, and nobody was able to really figure out where they went, where they came from.
Carolingians. That might. I'm not 100. That's
Carolingian.
just off the top of my head. That was They
Okay.
were an empire in the almost like the prior to the Viking Age. But yeah, this is why the hip fire thing is cool, because I could just look it up while we're talking about it. And then before we get into
Oh,
the
that's fantastic.
yeah, I'm gonna go over the outline right quick. Look at the globe. Oh geez. That's okay. So let's address that too. So the first thing I recommended this. What part of Jersey are you in, if you don't mind? I'll
Bergen
look it
County.
up.
I'm a stone's throw away from Giant Stadium, brother.
Okay, cool. Because I've been watching nothing but Sopranos episodes lately, man. And I was thinking about
You're
you. Are
stuck
you
on the
are you near
Sopranos,
any of
huh?
the Satrielli's veal parm?
Satrielli's is no longer around. Just the sign is still up. That's in Harrison, New Jersey. The Sopranos household is in West Caldwell. I've been there quite a few times.
Ha, really?
Oh yeah, yeah,
That's awesome. Okay, what
yeah.
part of Jersey, bro? You don't have to
Lyndhurst.
disclose.
No, it's all good. Lyndhurst.
How do you spell it?
Lynd. Hurst.
And
Oh,
what?
look at that. That's awesome.
Yeah, see, Lindard,
No,
Hurst, Lyndhurst. Oh, Lyndhurst.
Hurst. Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay. Oh, so Europe, Lyndhurst. Wow, that's like right next to the city.
right next to it. 6 miles
Oh,
away,
wow.
five
Holy
miles away.
moly. Okay,
Yeah.
wow. You're in the greater New York area, sorta.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah,
Oh,
bro.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
How's it going down there, considering
Dude, we're crushing,
sociological?
bro. We're crushing it down here.
That's what I'm talking about. See how we
Yeah, man.
Bears crush.
Yeah.
With the
We
That's why I
prosper.
appreciate our fellowship that we have.
Yeah. That's the other good thing too, real quick, man, because we get to hear what actually is going on. You know what I mean? We don't have to live by the scrying mirror, what the black box tells us. Whatever the state may be. Like, oh, yeah, that's so and so bear. Let me pick up the phone. I got his phone number. What's really going on down there? That's
Exactly.
what's great about it.
It's invaluable, dude. It's invaluable.
It
Also,
really
you could
is.
trust and rely on it because we have our fellowship and our faith. No one's going to be blowing smoke up your, what, when you're
Right.
talking to one of your homies said that's a bear. It's just like one of my,
Right.
I know I can rely on my family and my friends here in my neck of the woods. Um, and it's not just like in the States. You got Canada,
Right.
Europe, Australia,
Ireland and England crush it too, bro.
wobbly bears in New Zealand.
Right. Zezzy Bear is in Australia, or is she in New Zealand too?
Wobbly.
No, Zezzy. Zezzy
Oh,
Bear is
ZZ
over there
Bear.
too.
I
Yeah.
think I think ZZ's U.S. man. She might be like Midwest. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah. I can't. Please don't hold me. I'm not 100% sure for all the bears. There's so many, dude. You know.
I know. I know.
Um. Yeah. A little bit of gravy here, though. You're like right near. Here's where we'll track back to where we can talk about the network and research with my stuff. I got a hunch that you're near New York Harbor here, dude. The Hudson.
We were
I
just
think.
there last night. 2 nights
What
ago,
what
babe? 2 nights ago? We're right in the
what I
harbor.
might have you do. What I might have you do. Speaking of the network and why this is so invaluable. Do this. So my research on my channel, one of my next after my Dragon Auckland Islands one, which is going to be crazy, dude. Like I
Yeah,
said,
dude.
I'm
I
learning
can't wait for
learning how to
that.
do yeah. I'm kind of like I balked a little bit where I get ambitious and I say that I'm going to have it out soon, and things happen, life happens, other videos come up and stuff. I'm still doing it, but to relate this, I might have to have you possibly like find out the area where the Erie Canal connects into the Hudson, because I think that the Vikings knew that, dude. I think that the Vikings were here in the Viking Age, and I think that they came in through the Hudson, dude. Like what John Levi was saying in the shout out to
Yeah.
John Levi on Erie Canal. I think it was possibly the Eric Canal, or it was a portage. And with this ancient infrastructure, this is a little bit of a tangent, but whatever. I think that if the Erie Canal was here, which we think it was, I mean, it's 363 miles long with 36 locks that ends in Buffalo. Just
Yeah,
saying,
but it was
right?
it was man made.
When they say construction, they did construct. I think obviously they did shore it up. It's my opinion. Let me just get this up.
But that's
That
a huge difference. Shoring something up, Berserker, is not building it.
exactly.
I've
That's
been
right. Then when they
construction
say
man made.
construction, right?
And if I
That's the
tell you
little
that I'm
gravel
shoring
right there.
something up, that means that I had nothing to do with it. I'm just making sure that it doesn't collapse on my ass. That's all I'm
Boom, like
doing.
founded. Yep.
Yeah.
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 Plus, like if it's overgrown and there's stuff grown in it and like sediment comes on it, mud flood. Mud flood.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, exactly.
Portion of the mud flood, I think, is just literally sedimentation and localized crazy events. Anyway, how this rounds out and how we'll get back to the regularly scheduled gravy. But here's my key here and my kind of mission statement that I put out there. I think what's the point of this? You say, well, why would they do that? Well, they were trading with furs in the Byzantine East in Europe. They definitely were doing that in the Viking Age, from the 700s AD to 1000, 1100 AD.
Right.
Okay, and where do they get the whole supply from? I know Northern Europe or whatever, and it's not a huge. The fur pelt trade supply here in the state in the Americas was the most lucrative thing in the time in the world at the time of like the late 1800s or the early 1800s, which is why the War of 1812 happened. So that's, I think, here's my theory, right? I think that the Erie Canal was here at the in the Viking Age. I think the Vikings knew of it. They entered in through New York Harbor, and it. You say, well, what would be the motive of that? Well, if you come in the front door, which is where they came in down the St. Lawrence, okay, you have to go down the river, get into Lake Frontenac, Lake Ontario. You have to negotiate Niagara Falls. If you have sailing vessels, it is effectively a dead end unless you
Right.
can get around it or you know the Indians. Now, what you have to do is the Vikings, I think that they went down. Some Scandinavian historians think that the Vikings were down as far as Florida, dude, or even into Mexico.
Really?
So that said, yeah, this is coming from Norwegian historians too. They said that we would definitely be in New York Harbor. And I'm like, oh, wow. Well, if that's the case, maybe they did have entrance they knew about. So what would be cool is if you can find the actual, I'll look it up and maybe you can get boots on the ground to see where actually the Erie Canal ties in to the Hudson River, because it'll just be more information that I could use to make my argument. Now
Sure.
they don't know where Vinland is, just like conjecture with some of these stories in history, dude. They don't necessarily know where his settlements were. They think it was in Nova Scotia, like his first
Right. I know that's a
Helluland.
big one. Nova Scotia's a
I
big one
think
for him.
so. This area of New York is actually also known as wine country. And that's what he said Vinland was because of all the grapes. Now, the merit and the motive would be it's a back door around the falls to get into the lucrative fur pelts of the
Right.
interior. That's what I think. And I think that
Oh
they
yeah.
were on the low
Well, that's
coming here.
fascinating, man. I never even thought of that.
That's my opinion, man. That's kind of, and Robbie Radbear, my buddy, who lives over near on, Robbie, what's up, bro? He's very familiarized with this area and Native American history. That's where I got to go next. Maybe solicit some professional inquiries with the natives in
Right.
Iroquois, because that's what I got going on here. So that was a huge tangent, and I'm sorry, but still, I think that that's a possibility, and that's my mission statement. I'll work for forever trying to find that out. Super gravy. So back to the show. But what do you think about that? I
Well,
want to get you to maybe see if you can see where the Erie
I would
Canal
love to, bro. I
tied
would
into
love
the
to. Because I
Hudson
never
with
even
that in
thought of
mind.
that. I never thought that the Erie ran down here that far. I didn't.
It didn't. It just tees into the Hudson, right? So
Right.
it goes from Buffalo,
Right.
it strafes Lake Ontario a little bit, and then tees into the Hudson. I got to find that's another portion of the research that I got to do and follow up on. So again, thanks to John Levi for putting the spotlight on Erie Canal again. Shout out to your homie Berserker Bear, John. You're a solid researcher, man.
Yeah, he is. He
So
is.
one thing though, it's the Erie Canal was not Niagara River was not carved artificially, as far as we know right now. But the Welland Canal, that was artificial. And when we had a cottage up here, well, my parents' neighbor still does, and you can see the ships actually coming in and going out of the Welland Canal from that cottage. So
Okay.
so ships that come in from Europe that go down the St. Lawrence, what I call the front door, because that's what they used back in the day. In order for them to get through uh, the strait at Niagara because of the falls, they have to use the Welland Canal. Okay, so that's
Gotcha.
very, very, very important in this area. The Welland
And
Canal.
that's
It's in
still being
Canada
used
too.
today.
Definitely, it's a big canal, man. Um, we used to drive over it every single time we went to the cottage in Port Colborne. So,
Okay.
okay, huge, huge tangent there. Let's say hello to some people in the chat. Salty Dog is always here. The Vikings were in Bass River, Cape Cod. Yeah, there you go. That's kind of in, oh, it's Boston area. Shout out to Titty Bear. Lord Frybread, welcome. When they had natives in Greenland, they raised eyebrows. Oh, Gringote Bear, what's up, man? Gringote Bear's on the app, beartariatimes.com. Shout out.
Oh, that's what's
Masonic,
up.
it's a signal. Yeah, yeah. It's a nickname for Owen Benjamin's listeners. How dare? Well, you, sir. Okay, so let's go over this outline. I'm going to put back up on the screen the picture of what we're going to do. Thanks for sticking with us for that Vikings Erie Erie Canal tangent, but that's what you get here with Berserking bushwhacking history.
And dude,
So
real
we're
quick,
gonna,
the
yeah,
Erie
go ahead.
Canal story is just nonsense. How they got paid and what they were paid. So the cover story, is nonsense too. But I don't want to digress anymore. Go ahead.
I agree. I got more work to do on it, and you know what? We
It's
could I
just
could rope
awful.
you in for the boots on the ground over in that area because I can't get over there, man. It's 363 miles away. So if you can
Crazy.
find out where that tees in, we'll follow back up on that and report
Yeah,
back
yeah, we'll look
as
up
is.
to it. Definitely.
Okay, so let's get into the regularly scheduled gravy here. I'm going to give a brief outline of what's going on with this episode. I'll show some clips, and we'll just do some historical context with fellowship and get some feedback. Now, I Kevin Kruger's here. Always good to see you, man. What's up? I posed a question in the beginning. If anybody answered on that, who was the angel that gave Noah the warning 120 years before? That's another thing too, man. He was given the warning 120 years before. At least that's what it says in the documentary. I didn't cross-reference it with
That's
the Bible
biblical
yet.
too. It's biblical too.
That's crazy, man. He
Yeah,
had
it's biblical.
120. So they were living longer back then too, obviously, and it says that here in this. Now, again, let me address as we start off with the outline here. The first sentence, and again, the funny synchronicity when you've seen my outline when I gave it to you, what it says about the first sentence: God is love. So let's address that right now. I'll give my opinion on it, and I like to cite
Sure.
Jim Bob, made by Jim Bob, because I heard him address it before. You get that, I think, with this new age um, feel of the whole Gaia, Mother Earth. God is love, love is God, everything is love. And it's like I disagree with that. Again,
As do I.
yeah, I because it cannot be used interchangeably one to one in a sentence. You cannot say I God you, okay? Or love is the ruler over everything. So in my opinion, I don't agree with that, but as is they do placate to the globe thing. Actually, some of the OGs that were being interviewed in here, I love all of them. One of the guys was saying that he was working on dinosaur bones, and I don't think he's lying about that. I think that he believes they're dinosaur bones. In my opinion, I think they're probably dragon bones, dude. That's going to
So
be
do
in my
I.
next episode too, because he
Yeah.
seemed like a genuine older man, and real recognizes real. You can sense somebody's intentions in their demeanor and character, and that the gentleman that they were citing, that he cited his dragons that or his dinosaurs he's uncovering. It's like some people might say, "Oh, he's lying. Dinosaurs weren't real." In our circle of things,
Right.
I would say professionally, just put that to the side, especially with things like when they placate to the globe. But just get over that. There's enough data otherwise, and a lot of good fellowshipping logos in this documentary that you can get. Just ignore that, okay? Like somebody that you listen to that you don't agree with everything that they say. We're all adults here, and
Right.
we're professionally discerning. So that said, just to slay it and get it out of the way right away, I don't agree with God is love. It's not one to one interchangeably in sentences. So right off the bat, I didn't agree with it, but I kept going, kept listening, and it was well worth it. So what do you? I want. Did you have a take on the God is love thing?
Oh, absolutely. And I don't even
No.
need to say that it's interchangeable, although that's a phenomenal argument. I can just take it from a very simple perspective. God is order, Satan is chaos. And being a father, I can give you a very, very simple scenario of that. When my two boys are misbehaving or they're acting up, I feel disrespected. And the love that I have for my children is set aside for just a second because I have to put order back in their lives. It's that simple. Because I discipline them or because I maybe raise my tone, does that mean I no longer love them? No, of course not. I'm putting order back in their lives and I'm giving them what they need, which is to be set straight on a good path. So no, I don't believe God is love. There are many words that you can interchange with God. Love is not one of them. Order, yes. God is very ordered. Things are set by Him through His Word, through His ways, and we have the teachings of Christ who came down and He set that path for us. But no, God is not love. No.
Well put. And I agree entirely. God is not love. God loves us. Okay,
God
His
loves us.
followers. Right now, and to
Yes.
juxtapose that with what, and Satan, he despises his people that follow him because he's the king gamma. He hates his followers. So that's, if you are of that other, that's one thing to think about. Our God, God Most High, the one single and only God Most High, loves us, and it's always important to keep that in mind. So
Can I ask you a question real quick since we're going to just,
yeah, of course, go
I don't
ahead.
want to
That's
go
what we're
too
here
far
for,
off on
homie.
a tangent, but do you have maybe not a belief, but do you think, or maybe do you know of there being other gods? Not that you have to serve, right? So let me explain this. Not that you have to serve or you have to bow down to, but do you believe or do you think that there's other gods in this
No,
realm?
no.
Do you
There
think
is
that there's
one.
only
Well, there is one true God Most High,
right,
the Creator.
right?
We will get into this, and I have a little bit of that gravy later
Okay,
about in this documentary. I do believe in a demigod.
okay,
Absolutely not God Most High.
right.
Maybe a little bit more similar to jinn or demons. Okay,
Okay.
but in a sense that not of all of them are bad. Some of them are indifferent. Now, there is a portion in this documentary, it's good that you bring that up actually, but I believe no. Christian sense, monotheistic, one God, one true God, most high over everything, right?
Right.
He is the creator. That's my opinion, my take on it as a Christian.
Yeah.
That said, I don't discount the the heroes of old, okay? And the demigods even, because I have reverence for Norse mythology. I also have reverence for and respect for Eastern Indian uh, faiths, okay? But I am for sure Christian. I respect all benevolent creeds, though. One God, monotheistic, one God, Most High. But there is some gravy to the demigods, and I think the documentary does. Did you pick up on the part where it says that even in the antediluvian times, we're going to go over it, there still was a little bit of rot, and it's not detailed as to what the narrator just references it in the part where
Kind
they're
of a
saying
crossover.
how beautiful it was. It might actually be in the clip that I have to play, where it says it was all lush and beautiful. There was no rain. That's another gravy part of it too, man. No rain. The
Isn't that
mist came
wild?
up.
No rain.
Amazing.
No
Just
rain.
amazing. How cool was it to
Just
listen to that and hear?
morning
And
dew watered everything. What? What do you mean?
I know
What are you
this
talking
is
about?
more interesting than studying how big I was on astronomy, dude. And the moons of Jupiter or Europa have methane lakes. Not to like put it in the context of that's fake and GAE and all that. I certainly don't believe in it. But this talking about this stuff is way more fascinating to me at this point in time than even as much as I was interested in astronomy back then. It
Right.
opens up to nix the globe model and realm Earth, how it is described in the Bible. You know, the grabble on the lexicon and how words play. The entire system could be spherical, maybe.
Could
Incorporating
be.
the nine realms or whatever.
It could be.
It appears the Terra that I got a firmament folder. I might as well bring it. It appears that the Terra that we're on is flat. Okay, but that's not to say that we know for sure, or it's like we
Well,
can't
the
prove
one
it. But
thing
we have
that I've
older
always
books
said,
like
there
Enoch.
you go. That's the perfect thing right there. You can also
Yeah.
say that it may be some sort of rounded spherical shape, but it's just 30 times the size. And it appears, good night, buddy. And it appears that what we're looking at is flat from our perspective. So that, that sometimes you get caught in that, well, I'm a flat earther, well, I'm a realm earther. And you hear some of these other guys saying it now, like Jeranism and Weiss. They wish that they can go back and say that they're globe deniers, not flat earthers, but globe deniers. And that's good
Are
for
they
them.
saying that now? I can
Yeah.
get
Oh,
that.
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
realm
Yeah.
earther. I don't.
Yeah,
I think a flat Earth automatically triggers people immediately. Also, it's not true to how we believe it. You know, as
totally.
Christian or whatever, the firmament is round. Okay, look at this one, Sheol, Hades, Tartarus, go Tartaria.
Right.
Look at the outline of that; it's round. You know, so we're not saying we know. What we're saying is we have pretty definitive evidence that it's not what we're being told it is a globe. You know, frozen rock in the middle of blackness. That's, in my humble opinion,
Spinning,
satanic. Some
spinning,
people don't
hurling
know
and
that though.
swirling.
So I'm not calling people who believe in it the S word. That's not what I'm saying at all. Okay. So please don't misunderstand me when I say that I'm not, I'm not right. You're not wrong. These are just opinions here. So let's keep that in mind.
Totally.
Oh
And
yeah,
I'm
I was
always
just
looking for
not
new
talking at you. I'm
information,
sorry,
man.
bro.
That's how you grow. That's how you grow with
Yeah,
new information.
100%. Okay, so where we at? We're kind of getting off base here. I'll close some of these windows. Okay, so we have some clips that I'm going to show, but actually, let's generalize and give a general outline of the actual documentary itself. So, okay, it was on Amazon.com, but dude, I did find it on the YouTube. Go figure, it is on there. So when I do wrap up this presentation, I'll make sure to put a link of the video that we're doing right now in the description for you,
Right.
because it is on YouTube. You believe that? But we did have it. My wife did have Amazon Prime, so really, really appreciate this recommendation. Again, it was nostalgic in the sense that I felt like I was back in my parents' house, vegging out on the couch. I watched it like 3 times, wrote notes, just like I
It was
did
well
back in the
done.
day.
It wasn't low
Yeah,
budget.
well done.
Yeah,
That's another aspect of it
really
too,
was.
So okay, yeah. So there's kind of necessarily, let's get into the meat and potatoes here. There's 3 parts of it. It starts out and details the antediluvian world and Noah's story and his charge by God via the angel. Has anybody answered that one yet? So yeah, it tells the story of how beautiful the world was before the flood, and things happened, and Noah was given a charge because the world started going to the wrong way, and they detail it pretty well in here that if that were to if what was happening prior to the flood continued to happen, people would have forgotten about God. So he was compelled; he needed to do that. Okay, and it's detailed in there. And the first part effectively tells of that story about Noah, the multitudes not listening to him, ridiculing him, making little models of the ship and smashing it, and how their idolatry of other deities that they say represented God, but weren't, because that's the whole idol worship.
Right.
That's where I respect the Gnostics, where they don't have to placate to a religion. Say, I know that I have my communion with my Lord, my God, directly. Okay.
Yeah.
Um, I
That's
don't
why I
agree
was
with
bringing it up to
everything.
you before. No, no. But that's why I was bringing it up to you before.
Yes. Yep. And I think that we know that and understand that and can see that as Christians, or I believe any other benevolent faith has that connection with God too. And who always comes to mind when I say another example is Pockets of the Future. Paul, I really appreciate his podcast and his insight on things. He's not Christian at all. I actually, matter of fact, like when he kind of goes at the ignorant Christians. I
Right.
appreciate that. So, because some of us are ignorant in that if you don't see or accept Jesus Christ as your Savior, though He is my Savior, and I don't
Mine
agree
as
with,
well.
uh,
I'll put
I
that on
don't
the
agree
record.
with, yeah, people saying if you're not Christian, you won't find heaven. Okay, but here's the thing: those other benevolent faiths do recognize and love Jesus, like Muslims. They say, peace be upon Jesus. So that's kind of a grabble in the sense that I don't agree with the Christians or the even Catholics that say you have to go to church every week and have your, um, so that's not, I don't agree with that. What do you say to that? And I'll get back into detail in the second act. But yeah, I don't like when people say you're not going to find God or heaven if you're not a Christian. It's like, that's not what he's talking about at all. That's not the
No,
word.
that's
That's
not what
not
he's
logos.
talking about at all. In fact, one of my biggest arguments for the Catholic faith is backed up scripturally. with the New Testament telling us specifically not to have vain repetition when it comes to prayer. Catholics have some of the most vain repetition when it comes to prayer. You pick up a book, you have the numbers on the wall, and you read them every Sunday. That to me is the epitome of vain repetition when it comes to prayer. Your prayer life should be your communion, your confirmation, everything all in one, but with you and the Most High, not with some man in a robe or a collar or anything like that. No one gets to dictate to you how your prayer is, how you confess your sins, or how you commune with the Most High. Nobody gets to dictate that towards you. You know, that's your time. The Bible specifically says that your prayer closet should be your secret closet. Nobody should know when you enter. Nobody should know when you leave. And that's the way it is for me. Nobody knows when I come. Nobody knows when I go because everybody's still asleep. And that's the way I like it. You know, I like to have my time and, you know, my personal dialogue with God, and that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be dictated by anybody. We
I
have to
love
get
it.
out of this dogmatic approach of, well, this guy is, you know, 30 years or 40 years a Catholic priest, so he knows best. No, he doesn't. It's no different than a guy in a white lab coat telling you that he knows what's best for your child. No, he doesn't. Nobody knows that child better than the mother. Bottom line. And that's how I feel about that, you know?
I agree. That's the whole nature of the hyper tyrannical church aspect is the third part. We'll get into that after we do the first and the second. But you know, the conditions that led up to the French Revolution that we briefly detailed were
Right.
because of that hyper
Oh, yeah.
dogmatic, overarching. If you don't do it this way, now in that sense, I can empathize with the people of the time being like, oh, you know, that's where the whole grabble of the institution of religion gets lost in the sauce of faith because people directly attribute it. There's a great quote in here where the guy says that the Enlightenment purposely created an antagonistic approach towards from science and faith. Okay, because we're removing the religious aspect of it because that it kind of gets you can see how it gets perverted and usurped from within type of
Right.
deal, you know.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And there was a great one of the gentlemen that was being interviewed said it you don't there shouldn't be an antagonistic relationship between faith and science. It should be, you know, in tandem and bounce off each other. But this enlightenment thing and the whole postmodernist movement of like, remember that one part where they're talking about the reason. They chose reason over the logos of the word, and
Right.
they anointed some lady of reason. That almost kind of reminded me of Statue of Liberty, dude. Almost like that's a Statue of
Oh,
Liberty
yeah.
figure,
That's a good
sort
point.
of
I
like.
never looked at it that way. Yeah. Yeah.
I know she might, maybe, you know, because the goddess Columbia might symbolize that, you know, reason. We have to reason over faith. You know, we can't have, and that literally just grew and grew, and it's what we see now. That the whole worldview of placating the science capital S, and
The
people
moral
have
slide scale,
literally just
brother. You know what I mean?
completely, yeah, they completely have pushed off. If maybe if we were given this information as children, we would have chose differently. So yeah, there's always a yin and a yang, and there's always the dark side of it. But in my opinion, the dark side has been breaching over into our side, um, encroaching for quite a long period of time,
For far
and
too long,
it
in my
better watch
opinion.
out. That clapback is coming, and that's what
Yeah.
this thing details. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, so the first part is antediluvian, the beautiful, you know, no rain, everything was lush. Um,
Everything was lush.
and then the flood happens, okay, and then the second part effectively goes over how we do see evidence, and this is where I'm going getting into the gravy of the research and the floods and the cataclysm of what actually did break the ground and whatever. Yeah,
Right.
I guess you can say I can definitively say in my opinion that it was the flood, and that's what the second act or
Hey, wait,
second part of
before
this
you jump forward,
documentary. Yeah, go ahead.
I just wrote something down. It's in
Hit it.
antediluvian. So, are you familiar with the Septuagint scriptures? The 72 scholars that wrote the Old Testament. Are you familiar with that at all?
Not specifically, no.
Okay. So the Septuagint, some people say that it was written before any other scriptures. Some people say that it wasn't, whatever the case may be. The Septuagint scripture says the very first line in Genesis, it does not say in the beginning. It says in a beginning or in any beginning. So there's something right there that a lot of people don't understand when, yeah, right. So now wait, it gets even better than that.
Cyclical. Okay, I'm
Right,
with you.
right.
Gravy.
Okay, okay. Now, also with the Septuagint scriptures, the 72, right? Septuagint and 72 in Greek, they also propose that after the comma, so in the beginning, comma, or in any beginning, comma, after that comma, there's a period of 10,000 years. I don't know what to tell you, but these are the things that I've researched when I was. I asked my wife to buy me a Septuagint Bible because I had seen somebody was reading from it, and I asked him what it was, and he said, "Oh, these are some of the earliest writings that they have, and they were written by Greek scholars." And I said, "Why Greek? Wouldn't you mean Jewish?" And he said, "No, these were the Greek scholars of their day." And what he was explaining to me, which makes perfect sense, because a lot of these Jewish guys, they wouldn't need to write these stories down because they were already telling these stories. We're getting these stories from a Jewish perspective, mainly, right? So the first people that are going to write these stories down, they're going to be the Greeks. They were the ones that were taught it after the Jewish. And the way he was explaining it to me, it made a lot of sense because these stories that are passed down through Jewish lineage, the first ones that pick it up are going to be the Greeks, and they're the ones that are going to understand the stories, maybe firsthand, maybe secondhand. So I just wanted to point that out to you when it came to the antediluvian, that this could be more than just one time, but it can be numerous times over and over again. Now, with that said, I just want to point something out before people go crazy on me. If it is cyclical, which in my opinion, I feel that it is, I will state this 100%. Jesus Christ came to this realm, earth, whatever you want to say, only one time. I do not believe in any aspect that he does that over and over again. So I just want to put that out there right now. I firmly believe that he came here once and that's it. He did what he did. He took care of what he needed to do. He died for our sins. However, I do believe that there is something further, not better than him, just further from that teaching, that it is cyclical. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I'm glad you did because I tend to agree with that more and more now. That it is cyclical, even the way in the terms of how these guys were talking. When we say times and time, and even how we address history, man, I almost think like how what you're hitting on, history can be like a synonym for age or epoch. We are in a history age right now, and it's
Well, the way I use it
almost
as I call things a season. That's the way I try and look at things.
a
I'm
great
in a
way to put
season.
it too.
I'm in a season of giving, or I'm in a season of needing, or I'm in a season of famine, whatever the case may be. A season of blessing, however you want to look at it. Because we, right now in our 2022 society, we look at seasons as winter, spring, summer, fall. But they didn't look at seasons that way. They
Didn't
didn't look
have
at
them. It was
seasons that
all
way.
yeah. It was all temperate. It didn't even rain. Yeah,
It didn't rain,
it's a
didn't
whole
snow,
different
didn't do any of
way of
that.
thinking of it. It
Right,
probably all agrarian, like living off the fat of the land.
right.
Um, just as beautiful as you can picture, but there still was that rot, and that's why they got bad, right? Let me
Yeah.
address this quote real quick, this comment. RT, I know you, I see you around, man. I appreciate you coming back. The heartfulness spiritually, the heartfulness spiritually that POF promotes, Pockets of the Future
Pockets of the
promotes,
future.
and at the same time complains about leadership meets the definition of a cult, in my opinion. I completely disagree. Cult in what? Heartfulness as a cult? I think actually Pockets of the Future, Paul, does a great job of explaining and detailing how it's completely not a cult. But that's your opinion. I hear you. I don't think I don't agree with all the tenets of heartfulness. Some of it I'm not on board with at all. But the
I'm not too
insights that
familiar with it, so I can't give my two
Pockets of
cents
the
one way or
Future,
the
yeah,
other.
it's his faith. It's almost like an Indian Hindu. It's almost like
Okay. So I know who
Buddhist
Pockets
type.
is. I just don't know the tenets that he follows, the heartfulness meditation.
Yeah, I don't think it's a cult at all. I think Paul's insights are excellent. And here's the deal. Maybe RT,
I
this
would
will
agree
help
with
you.
that.
Yeah, this will help you. Maybe RT. and listening. When he talks about his heartfulness meditations or his journey episode, I don't listen to that at all. I only take his insights on the social aspect of and his interpretation of God. I mean, we're seeing the same God, so his insight on that is great. He's a benevolent guy, you can tell. So that's all I take. You take what you agree with and that you empathize with, and if you don't agree with it, especially when it comes to other benevolent religions, just let it roll, or other faiths, because he does have good intent, and I disagree with that. It's a cult, but no big deal. He complains about leadership because the leadership is so. Yeah, I agree. There's nothing wrong with
Yeah,
that statement.
right. No, that's
We're
true.
complaining about leadership right now too. There's nothing wrong. It helps to. Yo, Oakland in the house. What's up there, Iron Man Bear? Probably running a marathon right now, like 5 times in a row. Yeah, I got you, RT. No good. I appreciate your opinion, and thank you for laying it out there so we can discuss it. That's the whole idea. That's what wasn't happening pre-French Revolution. So that's how it got all effed up.
Right.
It's
There was
sort of
one voice,
happening
one
now, man.
dogmatic approach, and that was it.
Yeah, and the
You
hyper
know,
overarching tyrannical church, religion, church. Let's
right.
separate that from faith,
That's
because
important.
yeah.
That's important.
Okay, so that's what led to the French Revolution and stuff like that.
Sorry,
So
I got you
RT, thanks for
sidetracked, bro. I just wanted to put that out there,
go ahead.
man.
No, you're good, dude. Don't even. How dare you, apologize? How dare you? So yeah, and then the second act shows it uses the Grand Canyon as a great analogy as to how this geology was shaped by a massive flood. I'm not saying a mud flood. The mud came under the water. See that in that one I'm going to show clips. So please stick with me. I know we're getting long-winded here, but that's the idea. This is long-form podcast, fellowship,
Right.
fellowshipping faithfully with like-minded legends. But there was a great clip in that. I think it's actually in one of the clips I'm going to show, where it showed mud on the bottom of the water. So it's interesting, man, how the way that they put it, the Great Flood is actually responsible for the stratification and how straight the lines are. I love how they detailed that, because
Straight, man.
that
Arrow straight.
always
Arrow
yeah.
straight.
Why are they always straight? It was done rapidly. Okay, so
Rapidly.
let's get that's the second part of it, and the third
Yeah.
part, third act, if you will, the third act in the documentary shows how the French Revolution opened up the door for the thought processes that led to the evolution, with and rejecting God, and gave rise to that hyper placating to modern science, capital
Right.
S science, via the Enlightenment, and the ideals of reason over logos. This was the result of the overarching, extremely tyrannical institutions that held the ironclad sway in the Dark Ages, and they detailed that. So that overarching um, church and government, monarchical government,
Right.
led to the conditions of like we don't want to deal with it anymore. It was like shedding our skin of that. Unfortunately, the faith got lost because they were going against the religion and that, but there still is the faith in there, and that's where I think it's important what the Gnostics pull out, because you still have your faith, and you don't have to go through uh a conduit, if you will, which is what the
Torture.
churches were offering,
They
and
were
then
being tortured.
yeah, they were. And you know
You
what? The whole
know?
Crusades thing, as a Christian, I was talking with my mother about this before, because we're really getting into some thick shit here. Excuse my language, but when you recognize as a Christian, you give yourself unto the Lord. Okay, um, war takes on a different tone entirely.
No,
Even if
wait, hold
you're,
on a
even
second.
if
Can you
you're,
just repeat what you just said? When you say, would you just say about Christ? When you do what? You give yourself up to the Lord. Is that
when
what
you
you just
give
said?
yourself unto the Lord, yes, I think
It's
that
so funny.
if
My
you
mother just said that to me at my son's soccer practice.
synchronicity,
She
there you go.
just said those words. That's wild. I'm sorry, bro, but I thought that's what you said.
It's
I'm like,
okay.
wait a second. My mother just said
It
that to
clicked
me.
in your head, right?
Yeah.
Your mom gets it.
Wow, that's
Yeah, real
crazy.
recognizes real. You give
Yeah, man.
Jesus Christ is my savior, God most high my creator. Now that
Right.
here's the deal. I'm not um pigeonholing Catholics. I still say it was funny earlier when you said the repetition in Catholic prayer. I still say the Catholic Our Father, okay? But
But
I
that's not
also add in
Catholic. That's not
I
Catholic.
also
That's
add in,
biblical.
yeah, there
Jesus
you go.
Christ said
Good
to
way to
say
put it.
that. That's
Okay.
biblical, and we say it
And I
every night.
say, I give thanks and say our blessings for before every meal with my family.
Right.
And I've done that ever since my father would always do that, and I always
You see, those are
like
some of the
would,
strong tenets of
like,
Catholicism. You
yeah,
know,
I
giving thanks
exactly.
before a
We're
meal,
not
saying the
pigeonholing
Our
them,
Fathers before bed. No, absolutely not. Absolutely,
right?
almost
I'm
all of
glad we
my
addressed
family
that.
is Catholic.
Yeah, my
Almost all of my
daughter
family is
knows it
Catholic.
now.
You know, there's, whatever Christ told me to do in the red letters, especially, I'm all about it. And the Our Father was one of the things he said. When you pray to your Father in heaven like this: Our
Mm.
Father who art in heaven. We all know it. So yeah,
That's the thing too. I think the essence of it gets lost in the repetition of it. So
it could.
when I
It could.
teach my daughter it, or I, s- I tell her, she's 4 now, but when she is old enough to understand, I will explain to her what each one of those lines means.
Right.
So when she's old enough to understand that, and when I do say it, I mean it. I say it as if I am speaking to God
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
Jesus before the crucifix or whatever. And I have one up. Yeah, people aren't for that. I understand. It gives me an example of what he went through, though. When I see that, as Christian, we always have that like, oh man, it's tough right now. It's tough, but we can always harken back to and lean on, man, it's tough for me right now. Well, what do you think Jesus went through? It's like,
Right.
get over it, pull up your bootstraps, or tighten up your bootstraps and keep it going, because look what that dude went through.
Right.
So that's another tenet of being a Christian. So
Yeah.
yeah, now to bring it back to what was happening in the Dark Ages, the Middle Ages, um, set up the conditions as such to where people were just like, we're done with it now. Right or wrong or whatever, look what happened. So they were so against it, so much so that the French Revolution got horrible, and they were killing priests and everything. And what was it called? The Great, oh man, there's a term for it, the Great Murdering or whatever. It was bad. So they
The
were,
Marseille
you got to
massacre.
check yourself.
Is that what you're talking about?
No, the Great Terror or something like
Okay.
that. The Great,
Okay.
where they were going and purging all because they were so done with the religion and the government overarching that they wanted the, just to reason with everything.
Yeah.
So that was a really bad time. And so the third act of this documentary details that, which I thought was absolutely fascinating, because you got the Charles Lyell, uniformitarianism, trying to explain things minus the God aspect of it, and
Which is
creationism,
impossible.
which led
You
to
can't do it.
Darwin. and
Right.
and these guys just completely eviscerate that in a very professional, academic way. And some of them, you could tell they believe in the globe model, whatever. But if they have their faith, they have their faith. If that's what they believe, that's what they believe. But yet, you notice that some of them actually, one dude referenced the firmament, and in the way that they were detailing and delivering their argument, I think you could tell that some of them weren't actually globies, but they were being professional, as we are, and probably understanding the um, gauging the
Dynamic
room,
of
I
it.
guess, if you will. Yeah, the
Right.
dynamics of it. Gauge the
Right.
room. I
Yeah.
don't fight that battle now, which I thought that was really cool. So yeah,
Right.
you got the first part was antediluvian, Noah's story, just awesome, great details, and we're going to see that right now. So we're going to I'll show a clip that details like the first act, and a clip that kind of generalizes the second act, and then the third one with the French Revolution, and then we'll bounce back off of that. So that's kind of the general scope of a 100,000-foot view outline of this documentary. Again, thanks for recommending this, bro, because I had such a great time watching it, writing notes on it, and now that we're having a presentation, dude, this is
Well, the best
really,
part is
really,
there's three
really
more
cool.
parts, Berserk.
Daniel, thank you.
This is only
Yeah,
one part.
yeah. So we got more episodes to do, and
And you said
maybe
they
we
already
can pull
dropped too,
in.
right?
What's up?
They already dropped? I haven't looked yet.
I seen the part 4, so there's got to be, when I was doing the search for it on Amazon, I seen part 4, so there's got to be 2
Okay.
and 3 out. There has to be.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah,
Nice.
we're gonna have to follow up on that, bro, and do
Yeah.
maybe even get some more bears in, so I can bring in another bear right now, and there'd be we could have a 3-way session and go over it too. which is what we might
Oh, a
maybe for part
trinity.
two or part.
We could have a trinity of bears, huh?
Father, Son, Holy Ghost. I'm a special boy. Jesus likes the most.
Yeah,
Yeah,
let it roll, brother.
that's all above board for my Catholic brothers, out there. Of
Much
course,
love. Much love.
it's all love and logos.
Yeah, man.
So hey, Bill Miller Flip, what's up? Good to see you, Canada Dummy. Let's go back into the chat. Controllers keep running the same plays. Yeah, and we forget stocks crash, hopes are dashed. People forget the Who raps or sings about it in that song. I'm in its front. Bill Miller. Everybody check out Bill Miller's channel. Bill Miller Flip. Great channel. He puts out some great information. I appreciate you stopping by, Bill. We're eventually going to have a video together soon too, man. I got so much stuff lining up. Again, I balk and I get ambitious and I say I would like to have an episode with Bill Miller. He's an alternative history researcher and he does a darn good job. Check him out. Yep. Four Jacks, welcome. He gets it. Dylan Ryder, we need to rid ourselves of these satanic. Yeah, well, just do what you do in your own circle and handle your business and logos. And, it's almost like the broken window theory from Rudy Giuliani. Can't even believe that I'm
Can I
citing that, but
comment on that? Can I comment on that comment right
definitely.
there?
Yeah,
Can you
yeah.
put it back? I just want to. I don't know his name. Dylan. All right, Dylan. Let me explain something to you. I just had a great conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and I'm not going to mention his name, but his wife has terminal cancer. They gave her a crazy report. Doctors are telling her maybe 6 months, maybe 18 months. And I looked him dead in his eyes, and I said, "Brother, you can only take care of what you can take care of. You can only change what you can only change. Your reality is inside the four walls in which you live in. Nothing more. Your family, your loved ones. If you have children, Dylan, those are the things that you can get to do to be a part of. Ridding these satanic pedos that are hoarding marvels, God will show you what you need to know when you're ready. And I'm not calling you out. I'm just telling you this is what I've learned in my life. When you're ready to see things, He will show them to you. When you're ready to understand them, He will show them to you. Whatever the satanic pedos have, they can have it. I don't need it. God will show it to me in another way. If there's only one of them, He can make it again. Just remember that. Take nothing away from how powerful God really is. And again, brother, much love to you. I just want you to understand that.
I appreciate that. That's great advice and great insight. Because yeah, we
Yeah,
can only handle what's in our sphere of influence, so to speak.
that's it,
And if more
man.
people had a base foundation of positive, benevolent faith, that would kind of the larger problems theoretically would take care of himself. That's why I cited the broken window theory.
Right.
Rudy Giuliani, speaking in New York City,
Yeah,
Sopranos or whatever, Rudy
right.
Giuliani instituted a policy called the broken window theory, meaning if
Yeah,
there's a broken window on
I know.
an abandoned building, fix it. If these little problems or whatever, fix the little problems, then the big problems effectively take care of themselves. Apply that to your faith and your sphere of influence around you. And what's down the street is more important than what's on CNN, literally.
Absolutely. Literally.
And know your
Literally.
neighbors, help your neighbors, teach them how to fish, teach them how to skills that you have. This is the whole idea of networking in logos, because then that doesn't leave any room for those people to be around.
They
Okay,
can't encroach.
exactly. They prey on the fallen. They prey on the people who don't have that support. Okay, so if there's nothing for them to prey on, well then that's how you get rid of it. Okay, you get rid of it by shoring up your area and leading by example. People see it. This takes time, but so does their fallen nature. So just
Right.
keep that in mind. So that was really good advice there, Daniel, for sure. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I think we'll play a clip of the actual first one. These aren't long clips at all, and let's pay attention because I when I record them, I do it like 1.25 times speed to try to get around when I play it back any copyright. But
Yeah. Yeah.
when I'm doing it live, we go live like this. Sometimes they can cut it in right. They can if the bots pick up that it's a copyrighted thing, they might cut it. I doubt it. They're so short, and I played it a little faster. So the first clip is going to give a general context of the first part, the antediluvian area and how lush it was. So I'm going to play that, and you guys get an idea of the tone of this documentary. So here we go. I'll
Then
mute
roll.
myself, and then we'll do. This is a general detail of the first act of this documentary.
In the days of Noah, there were evident tokens of decay, but the earth was still rich and beautiful in the gifts of God's providence. The hills were crowned with majestic trees, supporting the fruit-laden branches of the vine. The vast garden-like plains were clothed with verdure and sweet with the fragrance of 1,000 flowers. The fruits of the earth were in great variety and almost without limit. The trees far surpassed in size, beauty, and perfect proportion any now to be found. Their wood was of fine grain and hard substance, closely resembling stone, and hardly less enduring. Gold, silver, and precious stones existed in abundance. The human race yet retained much of its early vigor, but a few generations had passed since Adam had access to the tree which was to prolong life, and man's existence was still measured by centuries.
Yeah, so that was a gravy little tidbit at the very end too. Man's life was measured in centuries. How
Right.
about that? So that we were living longer. Obviously, Noah lived longer. Um, yeah, so that is the beginning, the first part right there, and obviously it goes into a lot more detail. But the what are they animations and stuff that this show had really cool, man. So what did you have any thoughts on that? And anybody want to chime in on the chat?
Yeah, well, I just wrote something down here that I didn't even pick up. I don't know how I didn't pick up
Go
on
with
it.
it. Oh, the rot. The rot. That's one thing that I wanted to say about. There was a rot. You know what? Let's play it. I'm sorry. I didn't want to interrupt you, brother. But what he.
In the days of Noah, there were evident tokens of decay, but the earth was still rich and beautiful in the gifts of
What that was. I wrote that down actually too, and I'll bring this up, and then you can go over what you went over. What was he talking about of the evidence of decay? I think that might be alluding to the demigod play, like what we were talking about earlier, like the heroes of all their exploits and Odin walking around. Um, Not attributing any kind of benevolent or malevolency to these. There's something going on there. What was the
Right.
rot that was what was the rot that was occurring in the antediluvian time? Does it have to do with the demigods? And were they still trying to keep the word alive as everything was descending, and God felt he needed to come down and give the word to Noah? So yeah, what was the nexus of that rot? Is Of course, the serpent in the thing, but there's a little more gravy to that one. So
Yeah, there's way more gravy to it.
right. So yeah, what I'm sorry,
Yeah,
what'd you write down?
it's not that simple. Oh, what I had written down? Yeah, at
No,
the
you're
end of
right.
this,
It's not that simple. Yeah, there's way more
no,
to it, but in the general
way
sense,
more
this
to it.
is serious gravy, dude.
Yeah. The At the end of this clip, I just wrote something down, and I didn't realize it. He talks about wood that was less enduring, as hard as stone. And I just wrote this down because I just reflected on something. Have you ever seen those videos? I'm sure you have. Those videos where they talk about the mountains that were petrified that maybe were actually trees.
Yeah, that's one of that's one of the things that I do believe about this type of research is that yeah, they were the whole
I just found
I
that very
think some
fascinating.
fascinating, and they also say in the and I didn't record it in this clip, but they do say that the trees were of bigger breadth than they are now in the antediluvian times. That speaks to
So,
things being bigger.
right, bigger. How much bigger? Are we talking
Exactly. I know.
2,000
Titan
feet? Like, what are we
sizes.
talking here?
That's where the whole Titan thing comes into it. Also, at the end, when they're saying that the deluge came and they were people who didn't go into the ark were trying to climb up onto animals' backs, that animals were going to the higher ground because they know that. I wonder if that's like a gravy alluding to the Titans because maybe they were on the backs of the Titans. Okay, because some of them might have been benevolent. And my next video is going to address are some islands titans, like that Stelium 7 dude. Definitely, I should drop Stelium 7 and Bill Miller's. If any of my mods can drop these channels, I'd appreciate it. I don't even know Robbie's in there, but yeah, when they were saying that people who were fleeing from the waters who didn't go into the ark, they would get on the backs of animals to try to get to the higher ground, because the animals instinctively know how to get to the higher ground, right?
Right. And you have
Is
to
that
assume
is
they're
that
not
kind of
regular
saying?
animals.
Oh,
They
here,
can't
let's.
be regular animals. No way.
It's well. That's why. Okay, so here. This is why the live is cool, because I'll do it right now. We'll do it live. Okay, hide that. And where's the internet? Oh boy. Okay, we'll go to. I would highly recommend, when we're talking about on the situation of Titans, Stelium 7 goes over in detail this channel, how one of the mountains that what you see on screen right now could possibly be a large elephant.
Right.
Sounds completely out there, but this is what
No, you
we
sent
get
me this
into.
video, man. This was wild. This was wild. How
He
he
does
finds
boots
the
on the
ear canal and the eye and everything. Like, he doesn't miss anything in this video.
exactly. So when they say that in this documentary that they were crawling on the backs of animals trying to find, were they actually crawling on the back of something like this? That's the type of stuff that clicks in my head when I'm hearing that. You know what I mean? Of course,
Yeah.
they don't address it in the actual documentary itself. It's a little bit more by the book, if you will. Okay.
Right.
But yeah, this is the kind of stuff that parallel associations pop into your head when you're hearing stuff like that. You know,
Yeah.
who knows? And again, I cite this dude. There's another really cool dictionary of truth. This has videos that just deal with possibility of mountains being titans. So that's a thing, and I will address it next episode. I laid a little bit of gravy here for you, but yeah, part 1 was awesome, or Act 1 in Antediluvian. Did you have any other thoughts on that? Because then I'm going to play. We've been going for
No, I
quite a
just
while
wanted to
here, Brohim.
touch basis on that real quick, because I didn't write that down in some of the pre-show notes that I had taken either. So I just wanted to touch on that because it clicked in my head. I'm like, wait a second, wood is hard as stone. I know many of videos that talk about wood looking like stone. So
How about
I just
this?
wanted to,
Here's how it goes. I'm gonna ladle some gravy in I'm opening up my dragons folder here, bro. So get your gravy out. This is a folder for my next episode. But this is where we're on the subject of Titans now. This is where the bear community comes in so valuable in our fellowshipping. So in my Titan folder here for this, we have Great Lake Bear. Shout out to Great Lake Bear if he's here or not. But this is an area that he grew up in, and I'm going to show his DM. I got the okay for it. So he is in Plumas, California. Okay. Now this is a mountain in his area.
wow, are you kidding me?
Exactly. I've never even
Are
seen
you
that. This is a local
kidding
thing
me?
that a bear sent to me. And again, I am going to incorporate this into my next video. It has to do with Titans. Does that not look like a giant laying a Titan? It's amazing. Now he told me, look at that's a. What do you think, bro?
100%. 100%. You can't tell me
How
nothing
dare you
wrong.
say 100%? This is where the whole idea of the community of the bears. I posted something about on IG, whatever, and ladling gravy for my Titans episode or whatever, and he DM'd me. I saw your post, and it reminded me of when I lived out west. Used to drive by this mountain I'd call Indian Joe taking a nap. Giant gravy. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Great Lake Bear, and thank you for sharing that. And made it into this episode and my next one, brother.
Wow,
So I
man.
know, unbelievable. So this is what we're saying here. What is geology? The notion that it's a rock cooling off is, in my opinion, absolutely not what's going on here. and it opens up the door for more exploration and intrigue when you look at the realm in this way, I think, man. So this is my reply to him. Yeah, so cool. That's my okay that I got to use it. So yeah, just off the top of my head, I remember that. And we got Rusty Shackleford Bear.
Oh, shout
Now
out
he's
to him.
in, yeah, Rusty. I'll show a little clip. This is what he put up in Beartaria Times. I'm gonna. Oh, where is the clip? Okay, so everybody go to the App Store and get on Beartaria. What are you waiting for?
What are you waiting for? If you're not there, shame on you.
What are you waiting for? It's all. It's probably the most policed, if can you believe it or not, app in the realm because it's all about logos and family. Okay, that's all it is. This is Rusty's post when he's talking about he was at the ancient carvings in Jeffers, Minnesota. And since we're on the topic of Titans, look at what Rusty found. Check this out. Ready?
Ancient carving of a human-sized hand next to that hand.
Look at that.
Thousands of years old. Next to this.
Snake thing?
Jeffers,
Right.
Petroglyphs, Minnesota.
Did you get the, okay, what do you say? Rusty, thanks, buddy.
Next to this. Jeffers, Petroglyphs in Minnesota.
Jeffers Petroglyphs in Minnesota. So, boots on the ground, invaluable feedback from this the Bears, man. It's beautiful. Really is, man. So that was 2 examples that we gave of 2 different places that, you know, Titans. So it's not like we're being flippant and we're not showing any evidence here. Matter of fact, we are showing evidence and we're correlating and corroborating it. So what you got with that, Brohim? Any thoughts?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is that picture of whatever it's supposed to be. I know you can't say 100% without having a hair. How dare you? But my goodness, does that look like a giant taking a nap? I mean, it is spot on. As soon as I saw it, there was no way
This is it right here.
Could not think of it. Now, this is the one that, you know, I had said to you when I had DM'd you, I said, you know, this was the one that I always was skeptical about because the other side didn't make sense to me. And I looked at it and I said, okay, the one side, yes, but the other side is gone. There's nothing there. Where did it go? And then when the YouTube channel explained it exactly where it's gone and exactly where and why and how it doesn't match the other side, I said, okay.
Yeah, look, it looks like ribs and it looks like this all emptied out and there is red Terra there, like red,
right,
like blood, you know.
But the other side, that's so what we're looking at it is from the ocean going in. If you look at it from land or from the base, right, that view, because you got to remember that all that rot and all that erosion that's going to happen with the sea salt, with the ocean water blowing on that rock erosion, that's just going to erode faster. It's natural.
Good point. Salty water, the salty air.
Yeah.
Good point. And the wind side, yeah.
Yeah. But that side right there, man, I'm sold. I am sold.
I know. And then let's see where Rusty's at. Jeffers, Minnesota. First petroglyphs. This is a little bit of ladling for my next episode here, man.
Yeah, man.
Cool. So then I'll play the clip of the. I got a clip of how they use the Grand Canyon. So that's where Rusty was, around there. Thanks again, Rusty.
There's in Arizona that are like that too, Berserker, where they have a spiral or a serpent with a small hand and then a giant hand with 6 fingers. It's in Arizona and in Utah. Yeah.
They're all over. So that's evidence, I think, well, contributing evidence for at least civilization here back in the day also.
Right. And I always like to say correlation doesn't give causation. It means investigation. That's just my statement.
I like that. Yeah. You're adding on to the corollary causal argument.
Yeah.
Taking it a step further.
Right.
That's how we do, man, with the logos.
Yeah, brother.
Okay, so talking about the Terra is a good segue into this next clip about the second part, the second act, where it goes into extreme detail about how the Grand Canyon actually does show proof of the flood. In the
Right.
stratification of the layers being so flat, there's really no room for erosion, which should take place if these time frames are so long that modern geologists are purporting them to be. So this is a little clip that details that. It's 2 minutes long. Please give feedback. Hold on. Don't say sorry, RT. We addressed it professionally. I told you we appreciate that feedback. That's all right. I appreciate you saying you're sorry, but I'm not taking anything personal here. This
Nah,
is
man. You didn't
really
go
open
off.
forum. Yeah,
Yeah, you
not at
didn't
all.
go off. You didn't go
Not
off
at
on a
all.
tangent. You just gave
It's
your
your
opinion,
opinion.
dude. And everybody's entitled to that, man.
Pockets of the future would appreciate that too, hearing that, you know. So, I mean, he wouldn't appreciate hearing that, you know, a cult or whatever, but he knows that it was not true, so it wouldn't affect him, you know.
Right.
So don't apologize at all. This is I'm not passing judgment. I'm a very easygoing dude, you know. As nervous as I get with these live shows, again, I appreciate you, Danny.
Yeah,
You
man.
might not know that I'm a nervous wreck before these things, you know. So my wife will tell you though. So yeah, RT, don't worry about it at all. Now, okay, going back to the strata and yeah, man, the Titans. Can you believe? Oh, geez, who knows? So, well, I'll show another clip right now, 2 minute clip of this documentary, where it gives a really good example of how the Grand Canyon shows pretty definitively that it was deposited rapidly, and it
Rapidly.
corroborates. Yeah, it
Rapidly.
corroborates the Noah flood. It does.
Right.
So here we go. Without any further ado.
I'm gonna grab some water real quick while you run that.
Oh, perfect.
The rock layers that we see everywhere on the Earth are generally in layers. The sedimentary rocks are almost all deposited by water.
We see the rock layers consist of turbidites, washed in material, and with the catastrophism that was going on, you would have turbiditic action in the washing.
Okay, I just got to say right quick, and this will be good to stop in case of copyright. Now, when I was watching this documentary, and Daniel backed me up on this one of my videos, I think it was the Eternal Flame Waterfall that I went to with my good buddy a couple months ago. This is an older video of mine. I'm not going to pull it up right now because I don't want to get off tangent, but I used this very clip to explain one of my arguments, a unique argument that I had that I've never heard anybody else say. And here's the deal: when I think that I'm right on something, I do double down. That might have been lost in context on the previous Hanging with Bears. When I say that I double down, if I know something is right and I believe it to be true, then I will double down.
Well, I had never heard the argument before either, and when you had brought it to my attention, it made a lot of sense.
Yeah, so Danny and I were talking about it. I'm like, dude, do you remember that I used? He's like, yeah, I remember. I was going to say I used this very clip to put forth my argument that I think those boulders are actually acting buoyant, not floating on top of, but there is a little buoyancy to them because number one, why are they floating on the front? They're literally on the front of all of these mud flows and these flash floods, whether it's sticks and twigs in the washes that are out west. They're always on the leading edge. Now, sticks and twigs are on the leading edge because they're floating. We know that. Well, you wouldn't necessarily think that's the case with absolutely massive boulders, but that's exactly what we see, dude. The boulders are literally in the front of these things. Is it the force and the friction? Of course, yes, that's a little bit of it. But I also think there's something else going on in that in this mud, there's dissolved minerals and metals being collected as it goes along. Now, if that's the case, what is effectively taking place here is what happens when an anvil floats on mercury. In my opinion, I really think that boulders are buoyant in mud because of the dissolved minerals. So if that's the case, the mud could be more dense than those rocks, and they might act buoyant. And it actually looks like that, dude. And you agree with that?
100%. And the reason why I agree with you, well, the reason why I agree with you is because of one simple thing. If you were to take a rock and throw it into a river, depending on what the rush of the river is, depending on the size of that rock, you would have more than likely the rock sink. Now, if you have a massive rushing river with a smaller rock, it may briefly channel its way down and then sink. With this, yes, this is a massive flowing flood, but these boulders, they've got to be minimum 5 tons. I don't know how far this camera is, but they've got to be. Some of them look even bigger than that. I mean, look at this one that's about to hit the deck here. That one looks like it's like 6 or 7 tons. I can't comprehend what kind of force has to be pushing behind that. Look at the size of that rock that's about to fall. Look at that thing. When you said this to me, I'm like, dude, that makes perfect sense. Mineral-rich deposits are keeping them from completely falling to the ground. Just in that surface area where they're rushing with the water, but they're not settling to the bottom. And I agree with it. And this is the great diagram. Go ahead and show this because this makes perfect sense too.
That's cool. I appreciate that's another tangent here, you know, the Berserker Bear tangent. But yeah, I appreciate hearing that feedback because that's a totally unique concept, and I never heard it put forth before ever. And I'll put my stamp on that. I have other ones too, but yeah, to get that feedback, dude, I appreciate that. So let's just show that again for context, and we'll let it play through. Gravy.
Layers consist of turbidites, washed in material, and with the catastrophism that was going on, you would have turbiditic action and the washing in of material.
So water brings mud or sand or even coarser materials, carries it and deposits it in a layer. That's typically how the
So that's underwater. That's showing that the mud is actually underwater.
Sand or even coarser materials, carries it and deposits it in a layer. That's typically how the rocks in the geologic column form. And then they are different kinds of sediment, so they end up making rocks that look very different right on top of each other. But there's a question of this one layer formed, and then how much time passed until the next layer came on top of it.
The commonly held belief is that over millions of years, an ocean advanced over the entire continent and deposited a sedimentary layer, and then retreated, leaving the ground dry once again. In this dry period, lasting tens of millions of years, this sediment would have been exposed to weathering and erosion.
And if it just sits there without being covered up fairly quickly, then a lot of things happen. Plants grow on it, roots go down through it, animals burrow through it, flowing water will carve channels and gullies through it. And so it doesn't just stay undisturbed.
Tens of millions of years of weathering and erosion would create an enormous amount of uneven terrain between these two layers, such as hills and valleys, but this is not what we see.
This is key for me. This was key.
Yeah.
Why are they so straight, dude?
Straight.
There's little variation between these hills. They're extremely flat.
And these time spans that supposedly occurred between two layers can be 10 million years, it can be 15 million, they can be up to 150 million years, like you see at one place in the Grand Canyon, in deposits in the Grand Canyon.
You'd expect a lot of erosion then. In fact, so much erosion that the whole record should be gone a long time ago. Average rates of erosion are about 61 millimeters per 1,000 years.
With the same rate of erosion of 61 millimeters per 1,000 years, we should not be looking for 300 feet of erosion, not 3,000 feet of erosion, but 30,020 feet of erosion over a period of 150 million years. All the sedimentary layers in the Grand Canyon combined should have eroded 6 times over, and yet these layers are telling us that these layers were deposited rapidly in quick succession.
Is it realistic to think that 150 million years passed and nothing happened to this layer? It was not eroded out into serious gullies, and it looks much more likely that there wasn't that time in between those different layers.
The weather is always changing, and the surface of the Earth is always changing with it. Thunderstorms, floods, hurricanes, earthquakes, and wind, among other factors, are always changing and sculpturing the surface of our planet. These elements are always depositing sediment or eroding sediment, resulting in irregular surfaces. If you have time, then you're going to have change. So when we look at the contact points between these layers of sediment and see no evidence of erosion and no evidence of deposition, this idea that millions of years went by and nothing happened to the surface, it just doesn't add up.
These are turbidite layers, often graded, coarse to fine, which defies uniformitarian principles. It had to be rapid deposition.
When you have a gap of 100 million years, you have a couple of miles of erosion. You had to look at the gap and it's flat. If it had taken a lot of time, you should have irregular erosion at the gaps.
So the erosional feature is saying, oh, hey, short time, not long time.
The flatness of the layers and so on tells you about a past that's entirely different. And this is the kind of data that you'd expect from the Genesis flood.
Millions of years worth of erosion is missing because it was never there. This is what the rocks are telling us. But erosion is not the only thing missing. In fact, entire layers of sediment representing tens of millions of years are also missing. We're in the Grand Canyon. You can see right behind me this light colored rock. That's coconino sandstone. It's sandwiched right on top of this darker color here. It's called hermit shale. There's a layer of sediment missing between the coconino sandstone and the hermit shale called the Schnebly Hill Formation. Here we can see the lighter colored coconino sandstone, and sitting beneath that is the Schnebly Hill Formation that was missing from the Grand Canyon. Beneath the Schnebly Hill Formation is the hermit shale, though somewhat obscured by the vegetation in the valley. This is the Schnebly Hill Formation. It's more than 800 feet of rock, which is said to represent about 6 million years.
And the problem that science has is that it cannot just remove that rock layer, because in the mind of the modern geologist, each rock layer is associated with time.
This is what really got me going too. This guy,
Yeah.
I like this dude. But listen to what he's saying here, y'all.
So removing a rock layer means you've removed a block of time. So the solution to them would be, well, the bottom layers formed. The missing ones must have been there because the time was there. But here in this area, there must have been a period of erosion that took them away to the previous layer, thus not leaving a trace. And then the next one was deposited on top. The problem with that is that the contact is absolutely flat, like one glass sheet on top of another one.
Got him.
No evidence of those erosional features which would show deep leaching, washout, any one of those scenarios. They're not there.
Why are they a challenge to the Longitude-like ages? Because there is no erosion there.
The Schnebly Hill Formation is missing from between these two layers, and there's no evidence of any erosion. This tells us that there was little or no time between the formation of these layers, and that they were deposited rapidly in a catastrophic event. This is why the Schnebly Hill Formation is missing in between these layers in the Grand Canyon, and is seen yet in another location only 90 miles away.
So important. Now, this is what comes to my mind about that, dude. Is like we're brushed off when you say flat Earth or whatever, like we talked about earlier. These guys are talking so matter-of-factly about it that it's refreshing, and that's what when I texted you earlier. Like, these guys are like OGs, regardless of the globe thing or whatever. Get past that,
Dude, real quick, I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah.
That guy Walter White, dude, he's done videos on like Illuminati and Trilateral Commission and CFR.
Wow, really?
Like, he's an OG, bro. You gotta look
I didn't
him
know
up.
that.
Oh
yeah, I will
dude.
now.
Yeah,
I was actually planning on getting some of those dudes' names and looking them up. Yeah, but now that you tell me that,
he's a
gets
South
it, huh?
African. Oh yeah, he gets it. He gets it.
I knew he had a South African accent, man.
Yeah.
At first, I'm like, Australia. No, I like the South African accent actually.
All right, so again,
Interesting. So that was the clip, and if not, so here's the deal: when we say this and you're a flat earther, huh? Well, you know what? It's not because we're ignorant with our faith. Actually, listen to the other side here,
right?
Because the way that the Globies will say it is like, watch Neil Tyson. Well, there's other very intelligent academia, like the guy that you just cited. Some of these dudes were PhDs that are literally telling you, no, what we're seeing here does not add up for what we're being told from the mainstream academia. Now, I'm not saying go take out the pitchforks and torches here, like what we were talking about with art. It's got to be sometimes it's so retchingly slow that it's like, why won't people wake up faster? But there is a slow ground movement of that information with the steadfastness that those gentlemen are speaking. Like I said, refreshing. And it sounds like you kind of got that same sentiment too, because it's like, why weren't we, like I said earlier, as much as I was into the history and astronomy and animals and all those shows back in the day from History Channel, Discovery Channel, I think a question that needs to be asked is why weren't these type of shows also shown? And
Or
not to
worse.
really, yeah, why weren't we
Right.
an equal mix, or even just some? No, I'm not even arguing for half and half here, but they
And the
should have
one
been
thing
out
that
there.
that guy was pointing out was you're missing 6 million years. Now I
Exactly,
know
that's why
the
I showed
number.
that.
6 million years, right? Oh, get it, six. Okay. So if you want to take your 6 million years from what I'm showing you, then what are you going to do with the 6 million years that you've given as a timeline? Where are you going to put it? Where are you gonna go with it?
That's funny because when I research history and the timeline of history going on with civilization and stuff, and doing what I do with alternative, eh, we need there's a notion that time was stretched or 1,000 years were added here and there. It's kind of similar. It's almost like how when you fill out you ever fill out a resume and you're like, well, we don't know. I don't know. I don't remember when I stopped that job. You kind of fill in the blanks. When
Sure.
you don't know the
Yep.
exact dates. It's like,
Yeah.
so I see that happening in history with civilization, and it appears that they're kind of doing the same thing here to
But the
try and
gotcha,
add
the
time to
gotcha
bind
to this whole
evolution.
thing is that there's no uneven erosion. There's no
Exact.
wear. There's nothing. It is dead balls accurate. A level, a laser, whatever you want to call it. It's right there, and that doesn't happen over millions of years. That happens extremely fast, rapid erosion.
Like a solution, like everything was a solution, and then it separated itself. Like when you let something sit for a minute, and it separates into its like water on
Right.
oil or
Oil,
whatever.
water. Yeah.
It's fascinating for me to think about it in those terms, where because geology and the sedimentary process, like the one dude says in here, takes forever, uh, allegedly, supposedly. But to think of it in terms of it was a whole solution mix and it separated as it was happening, it completely blows my mind, dude. But it
Right.
makes sense physically because we know we actually see that in the real world when materials separate in solution,
Right. The
right?
densities of each solution. Absolutely. Yeah. The density, the more dense it is, the heavier it's going to go. And then the lighter and the lighter and the lighter. And,
So
the other great point that he brought out was where's the trees? Where's the roots? Where's any of it? Give me something. But they can't. That's what I found so fascinating. Like that part that you highlighted, that was the fascinating part for me. It's like I've always understood these concepts, but when you see somebody that's an actual scientist who's doing real scientific work, you're like, okay, I'll fall back on this guy. I'll take what this guy's saying and I'll run with it because I trust what he's saying. And it's a great part of the video.
yeah, if nothing else, too, you take it as data acquired and use it in your own discernment to say, yeah, what they're selling as capital S science is not adding up, logically
No,
speaking, and through scrutiny and logical deduction. But they paint a really good picture of, when they throw Neil Tyson out in front of you. And imagine in a world.
a world of millions and billions of years ago. But you can't
It's
imagine
crazy.
that. You can't imagine that. So why am I going to try? Hey,
Fascinating. There's a good quote in history. I think it's Hypatia of Alexandria. It's the mark of an intelligent mind to be able to think of an idea without actually believing in it.
right.
You got to utilize that in your playbook when we're going over all this stuff. That has to be a tool
Absolutely.
in the toolbox. Be able to think of something without buying into it. A lot of people have lost that, I think, now with a hyper dogmatic civilization that we seem to have fallen into. Now that said, what a great segue, because the third clip I'm going to play, and we're coming up on 2 hours here. I don't want to go too long, dude. We got hanging with bears at 10 o'clock. Shout out
Yeah, I know. We're
to
almost
that.
there.
But so to wrap it up and the socio aspect of it, and how do we get to this point? It's important to play this third part, this third clip, because it details
This ties it all in.
the zeitgeist. Yeah, the
Yeah.
zeitgeist of the coming out of the Middle Ages and that tyrannical, overarching, like we've addressed, church and monarchical government, and why it got completely, why when I put it in the post, it was like a demon juggernaut just came in and completely, you know how it's like a pendulum, it swung back way the other way, because you
Way
effectively
the
are
other way.
you start doing to each other what you were arguing against when the Great Terror, when they were literally hanging priests in the forests. So you're going against something that you hated as a tyrannical institution, but then you become to do the same thing. And that's what we're talking about with Bertaria, is because you don't want to be overthrow the government anarchy unless you can be there to replace it with something else.
Right.
Because if not, it's just another racket government protection. And you better, I think it's better off trying to make it better from within, as opposed to pitchfork and torches to burn it down. Because
I
that's what
agree with
happens
that.
throughout history, and that's how we regress and we never go forward. So it's that constant pendulum. So now that we're in this time period, you can see the parallels. So this is a good clip. It shows the third part, generalizes it, and French Revolution it bases on, and again the zeitgeist of the time, and how things came to be the way they are right now, with the placating to the hyper science and worldview and reason over logos. Unfortunately, for the faithful, that's a very
Unfortunately.
sad state of things, but we still move forward. So that's all I'll say about. I'm kind of ranting here, getting philosophical. But okay, so third clip about the third part in this doc, uh, involving the French Revolution. Here we go, and then we'll wrap it up, homie.
Yeah, man.
All during the Middle Ages, some factors in society were very autocratic and dogmatic and persecuting people, making life very hard for people, suppressing them. And what were those agencies that were doing that? Well, it was governments and the church.
One of the greatest things that man wants to have over man is power. In the Middle Ages, the church ruled the world.
So during the Dark Ages, the medieval time period, for 1,500 years, you had this nearly monolithic, universal, well, throughout Europe anyhow, rule of the Catholic Church. One of the arenas of conflict in the developing new freedom of thought with the existing structures of the Catholic Church over the last 1,500 years was, of course, the area of science. And the stories are fairly well known of all these scientists, from Galileo to Newton to Copernicus to Francis Bacon, who came into conflict with the church. Probably Galileo is the one that is most famous. He promoted the heliocentric, or the sun at the center and all the little planets going around. But the church didn't like that for a variety of philosophical reasons. To have the earth at the center was important philosophically. That was a mark of the perfection of God's creation, and to have the idea kicked around that the earth wasn't where we thought it was, and that these other planets weren't going in perfect circles, that wasn't popular. So Galileo was called up by the Inquisition, placed under house arrest, threatened with serious punishment, possibly death. We use that story now, unfortunately, many times to create an unworkable antagonism between Christianity and science.
What he goes on to say is that's not the lesson that we should learn from that, and that's exactly what we were talking about. Matter of fact, I think it's important just to play it again, what this guy just said, because that's effectively the essence of what we were just saying. They use that to demonize you got to separate and distinguish between the religious institution and what they're trying to force on its constituents,
Right.
and
Members,
actual faith,
congregation.
directly faith with God Most High, because that got lost in the sauce, and it completely demonized faith also, which it shouldn't have. It should have distinguished between the religious institution that was being hyper tyrannical and those of the faith, because like I was going to say earlier, it's not Christian. Like when you hear people talk about the Crusades and we went over into another country to pretty much kill farmers to get them to go in, that is absolutely not what a Christian would do. I don't recognize that whatsoever. I
Neither
know
do I.
things get lost
I've never seen a
out
Christian
history.
do that.
I
Whether
would
they're
never.
pagan, it doesn't matter. It
I
doesn't matter
cannot
what they
stand
do.
when these historian machismos with their bravado and I went to college for 15 years for history, and they literally say the Crusades. I can't stand hearing that it was Christians that did that, because it was not.
Well,
I
I
know
said that in the
things happen
beginning.
in rah for country and soldiers, but we would protect our street and our farm and our family if we are affronted.
But to
But I
go to
don't think
another
that we would
country and kill somebody?
an endeavor
Come
to
on.
go to another country to try to get them into our faith. For me, from my standpoint as a Christian, it's not that's foreign to me. So I
And it
I
makes no
really take
sense. It makes
reservation
no
with
sense either.
no sense. I take reservation with historians when they say that. It's such a very paramount time period of history too. The Crusades, oh Christians, it aggravates me. What
Yeah.
should I say professionally? Oh wow. Salty, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Thank you very much, man. Every little bit counts, and I appreciate the super chats. I don't say it as much, I don't think, but yeah, thank you, Salty. You're the man. So yeah, okay. Um, Another tangent, but it's effectively, in essence, what this guy's getting at. So let's hear it again.
Position, placed under house arrest, threatened with serious punishment, possibly death. We use that story now, unfortunately, many times to create an unworkable antagonism between Christianity and science.
And that's not the lesson that we should be learned. That's what he said.
Right.
What a
It's
great
unworkable.
insight that is. Yeah.
Yeah. That really is. It's profound when you look at it and you think of who they were using as their, I guess, antagonist. Would you call Galileo an antagonist?
In that aspect, I don't know if Galileo honestly was even a real person. The whole psyop thing.
Right.
He probably was used to promote the whole science, the culture of science at the time,
Well,
and
that's
then
what
they
I'm
used
saying.
him
They
as
were
a
using him in
busy
that
idiot.
sense.
You can use like how they use people today, like Elon or whatever. You can use him as a busy idiot to ostracize him and say he's going against the church, what we deem to be the faith, with science, and then it almost like starts the pendulum to go in that direction of like people starting the Enlightenment. So I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question, man.
What,
There's a
like
lot
a
of conjecture.
counterculture, you're saying?
What's up?
Like
Yeah, well,
a
the
counterculture
culture that was getting sick of the overarching church or whatever probably would
Right.
have placated to Galileo. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
maybe even
Okay.
the Gaia, like moonbeams or whatever. I say that jokingly because they would
No,
have
no, I
been
understand what you're
they
saying.
would have been looking for an alternative to the overarching church, and been like, well, this guy's talking about some truth here, logically deducing stuff, and he's looking through this like long telescope thing that looks like a phallus. But they're looking for something not to be because like one of the guys put it in this episode is like the religion made it such that people thought like God was out there just looking for somebody to transgress and he would smite them. You know what I mean? That's not how God operates
No.
whatsoever. That's the zeitgeist of the time though. So when somebody comes up with when somebody arises like Galileo, who is kind of sort of going against what you'd say faith because you're doing capital S science, they can use that to promote even more tyrannical stuff. But then the people who were following him would just use it as another example of this church is ridiculous. They're they're going to kill this guy for him just doing research. So it's a whole convoluted mess of intentions and mixed history. So
Right.
yeah, I would think that the people placating away from the overarching church would have liked Galileo, but then when they did that, what this dude explains right here is what happened because the nature of how things were at the time. Absolutely fascinating, dude. So wow, what a great little aside. And I like to do more of these episodes with other insight. We got it part 2 and whatever. We'll track back on that. But like to get a little bit away from the tedious, rigorous research of making a video and all the book stuff that I do, man. It really cool. I
Yeah.
really like that a lot, man. And thank you very much for recommending it and lighting the fire under my ass to do a video about it. Because boy, I wish I had more time, man. But I really do appreciate that a lot,
Well,
Daniel.
I know
Thank
when
you.
you smooth things out, you're not a surface scratcher. So I figured, I said, you know what? Let me see what he thinks about it because I was gonna send it to Bowler Bear too, and I just never got around it. And then you responded right away. I'm like, oh man, he must have watched it already. I'm like, all right, let me see what he's got to say.
Bowler would think this is gravy too, definitely.
Yeah, bowler
almost
receipts
all
are a lot
bears
of the
would,
stuff
obviously.
that I send them. I try not
Yeah.
to box down a lot of people because a lot of us are busy with our everyday lives and the things that we
Yeah.
do. And let's be
100.
honest, we're all a little conspiratorial minded, so we're always sleuthing our own stuff anyway.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, man. Well, this was a lot of fun, bro. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. So yeah, like we have no, my pleasure. Like again, it's a nice little like getaway from doing what I normally do. With it's not, when I say tedious, it's not like it's an annoying thing. It's a hobby, and I love doing it. Matter of fact, family comes first, just like you said, and I also have another full-time job. So, heck, man, if we're faithful, us bears, and we're workers too. We get it done.
Right. Oh yeah.
So yeah, I mean, what, part two, and then I'm gonna watch that as soon as possible, actually, and then we'll just set something up down the road for another ladling session and maybe pulling another bear, or whatever. But I like to do more of these episodes. I shout out Liberty Step Bear. Like I want to do something like this in similar fashion to like for gaming, because
Okay.
Are you a gamer?
I'm not. I'm not.
You could
I'm
bust my
not.
chops about it, but yeah, but
No, man, it's
there's a
cool.
lot of cool truth drops in games. That's one of the reasons why I bring it into to the fold, because some games have some epic truth drops, and I guess I'd be remiss not to address it at least. Plus, it's pretty cool. It's a pretty cool aspect to put into videos or
Right.
episodes.
Do you make videos on those as well?
I have one from back in the day, a
Okay.
breakdown of Shadow of the Colossus, which is a really cool game where it's a puzzle game, but you got to fight these huge titans. I did a breakdown of it.
Oh,
It also details the Faustian deal, but it's in a fantastical world of, it's a play on Babel. It's a play on the Babel's tale, and it's got a Faustian deal in it. And it's a while ago, the video that I put out, I think.
okay.
But
'Cause I was
it's
gonna
cool
say,
because
I've seen
these
quite a
titans
few
are
of your videos
huge.
and I've never seen it.
They're huge titans. They're like mountain size, and they're part of the landscape. They look like some of them, and all of a sudden they come alive. So that's one of the things the aspect that I'm going to put into my new video.
Wait, you say they
And
were in the mountains and then they come alive?
they're the size of mountains, dude, of
Okay.
hills. They're massive titans, and some of them are such that they look like they're a part of the actual landscape. It looks like it's ruins. There's one of them that it looks like it's a ruin. Then he just like stands up and comes out of the ground, and he's like 500 feet tall. And it's a puzzle game where you got to find out a way to climb on top of them while they're trying to attack you, and you got to climb around them and find their sweet spot and stab them with a sword. It's one of the sickest games ever made. It's acclaimed for that also, but it's one of the sickest games I've ever played personally, and
Okay.
it's also billed as one of the best games ever made. Fantastical scenery, just epic. And there's a huge
Huh.
right in the middle of it's like a, what do you call, open world game, and right in the
Yeah.
middle of it there's a massive tower, and there's a sentient being that you speak to, and he gives you a task because you got to try to save a maiden. Long story short, and the sentient being that you do a deal with, his
Right.
name is Dorman, Dormin. What's that backwards?
I was just gonna say that. What is that backwards?
Nimrod.
Wow.
Babel.
Yeah.
And he makes a Faustian deal with that sentient thing, and it's a trick, just like always. Very interesting. So yeah, I did a
Very
breakdown of that.
interesting.
I'm gonna incorporate it into my next episode. It's called Shadow of the Colossus. Ah, dude, you know what? What time is it right now? We got about 5 minutes. Shadow of. We'll do a little gravy right here. There's also flying. There's also flying ones. Let's see if we can do a. Want to watch that trailer for this right quick?
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
interested, man. Put it
Yeah,
on.
why not?
Yeah,
Let's
let it
do a
roll.
little bit longer.
We got a few minutes before Hanging with Bears comes on.
Word up. Audio good?
Yeah. I got it. Oh, it's made in Japan. What do you expect? Of course it's gonna have good graphics.
It's amazing, dude.
Oh, shit.
Bro, the
Wow.
game is insane.
Wow.
Yeah, super cool. So that's a little bit of another preview for my next video I'll be doing. I'm gonna incorporate that into it with the Titan segment of the video. So yeah, you know what? I'll do a little bit of a ladling on that. Check out my next episode. Stay tuned. We're doing dragons, Auckland Island. What's going on here? Check this out, bro. Did you see my post? What's going
Yeah, I
on in
did.
Auckland Islands with the Tower of Babel, bro? We're gonna dive into that. We're gonna we're not maybe not figure it out, but we're certainly gonna query as to what's going on because you can't find this thing anywhere. There's no other data about this Tower of Babel mountain on Auckland Island other than mentioned. This is actually off of Info Galactic. I don't want to use Wikipedia anymore, really. You're welcome, Vox. Legend. And yeah, so super cool, man. I've had and you know what? Where are you at? Hey, Trail of Table, can you co-sign me right now? And how long ago did I actually? How do you remember how long ago, Gringo Bear, when I first said something to you about this island? Because I go on record with, that's why I love the Bears, man. I hit up Trail of Table a while ago. I'm like, something's going on with this island, bro. What do you think about it? Probably like a year and a half ago, maybe like a year ago.
Well, just looking at the shape of it, something seems off.
What does it shape like to you? Just say what comes to your mind.
A dragon.
Oh, in there. Okay, I didn't look at it like that. Matter of fact, it looks like a key to me. Oh,
All right, let me see it again.
I used to like perusing on Google Earth back in the day, just looking up, especially South Pacific. Look at it, bro. It looks like a key, dude.
Oh, sure. Okay. Yeah, there's the top of it. There's the
Now I was
opening.
thinking about how we think about in our, outside the box. Is it a key? Is it a key to the outer lands, maybe? Like directly south of here? Is that where the hole is in Antarctica type of deal? Is that it? But now as I look at the geography of it and I see the names of the actual mountains, they got mountains that are named Tower of Babel. It kind of reminds me of the Shadow of the Colossus. That's why I thought about that. Where's the geography? Here we go. So even in this official geography, all the other peaks are named, but not Mount Babel. It's actually the Mount Babel is actually the Fleming Plateau. Okay, I have an app that I found that's sick, bro. It's actually a 3D rendering of this island, right? Which is extremely crazy. It's the Mount Babel, Tower Babel is delineated in that application, but again, not here. So why is it not cited anywhere, dude? It's really peculiar. Why is it shaped like a friggin' key? And I also tie in Predator, and I'm going to tie in the Ultimate Warrior because when I was first looking at this, the Trail of Table answer, mass produced. Yeah. Hey, Gringote Bear, do you remember how long ago? It's probably in the DMs in Beartaria. But as I do, I peruse and I'm looking. Interestingly shaped island and inlets. This is probably the only bay that you'd be able to get on the island from. Now you zoom in, and what's going on there?
What is that?
Exactly. So the first time I ever seen it, bro, we gotta dip out soon. It's 10. But the first time I ever seen it, I'm like, yo, that looks like Predator countdown. That looks like the Predator number sequence at the end of the Predator. That's what came to my mind.
All right,
I
just
have
real
no
quick, what
idea
is that
what it
even
is.
supposed to
It's
be?
just a weird beach Is that
Oh,
rock?
that's supposed to be a beach. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like a beach, but it looks like a rock. See, we're at an inlet here, right? This is at the northern part of the island. See, it's weird. It's weird how it changes the way it looks too, from brown, then it goes to that. Now, this is an inlet, or you call a fjord, up in the north, and it's weirdly shaped. And then you zoom in down to the beach, and it's like predator glyphs.
That is weird.
So I'm going to tie that in also. Predator countdown. I love the hip fire, man. Look, doesn't it look like
Yeah.
that?
Yes.
So years ago when I first seen it, I'm like, what's going on with predator glyphs here? So I'm going to incorporate that too in my next video. There you go. Stick
Nice.
with me. Keep it sleuthing, y'all. So Danny, New Jersey, TransitBear. What an excellent episode, man. I had probably the most fun that I have in a long time since the last bear that I chatted with, man.
Much
Toronto
love,
Jew
man. I
Bear. Moon
appreciate that.
Jazz Bear. Yeah, that was a great episode. I
Yeah,
really,
he's a
really
smart
liked that.
dude. Moon Jazz is a smart dude, man.
Oh,
He
Mr.
was
Wizard, yo. Oh, yeah, he's
when I was on with Finksburg with hanging with the Bears, he came on like the last half hour. We were all sleuthing together. Like the stuff he was saying, I'm like, bro, you're blowing my mind right now. Like, and again, invaluable. That's somebody that we have a straight shot to if we have like crazy anything like
chemistry.
Right, I was gonna say.
Etymology. He's really good with etymology of words.
Okay.
History. Yep. Yeah, dude.
Yeah.
You nailed it on the head. Broke the hammer. We have a community that is of logos, of faith, benevolent. We like to bust balls and bust chops, which is a good release valve
Yeah.
for people's tensions these days. You know, you can call a racial bigot, homophobe, whatever. Look at what's going on in Babylon right now. You know, and look at what we're doing here in Bertaria. As a matter of fact, like I said before, I don't know what you guys are waiting for, but there goes the Bertaria Times right there, and it's all family oriented, crushing.
$15 a month, a year.
A year, that's it.
A
And
year.
you can communicate with the other bear. We communicate other bears, bear adjacents on here for commerce, for barter, and nothing goes on here but hardworking stuff, family oriented stuff, faithful stuff, and building each other up with the community, also in your faith and the way you feel about yourself. Because there's a lot of negative stuff going on right now. You could turn that inward. What's going on here is positivity. Like Owen likes to say, like a 5-year-old can scroll through this and you got nothing to worry about.
Nothing.
Awesome. So that's Bertar. The good, the true, and the beautiful. That's 100% right. So TransitBear, man, thanks again. I'm going to tail it out. We'll end it. And thanks to everybody here in the say what's up to the chat. We'll need to, okay. Everyone's here. And again, thank you for the $5, Salty Dog. I appreciate that. Much love. So that was another episode installment of Bushwhacking History with Berserker Bear and special guest TransitBear. Daniel, thank you very much.
Much love, brother. Much
yeah,
love.
in the meantime, everybody, please like, share, and subscribe, and keep it sleuthing. I'll report back. God bless.